Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to look at Super Eyepatch Wolf's villains in wrestling making people hate you. Now, I know a bit about this on the writing side, but as for how this interprets into wrestling, I think it might be the same. Generally, just be outgoing, be arrogant, and slightly dismissive of the people around you, as opposed to the way you do it in fiction, which is be outgoing, be arrogant, be very dismissive of the people around you, and or commit crimes against children. It's not a very good way to transfer over, and if they do it that way, wrestling would be a whole lot darker than I thought it was. More importantly, though, I'm kind of curious to see what this entire process is, so I'm really kind of fascinated about this. We're going to jump right in. You guys know the deal. Link below, video, hit it up. Let's get started.
It's December 27th, 1987, and Antonio Inoki is one of the biggest wrestling stars.
I don't even know
on the
that
planet,
character.
and the biggest in his home.
Or is that just his name?
Japan.
Oh,
This
it's
is
in
the
Japan. I
man who
definitely
fought
don't know it.
Muhammad Ali to a draw, started New Japan Pro.
Wait. I'm sorry, he did what? Did he just say Muhammad Ali was wrestling?
This is the man who fought Muhammad Ali to a draw, started New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Okay, so no, he was... It looked like still wrestling Muhammad Ali, because if you're down on the mat, I don't think that's boxing anymore. Although with my knowledge of boxing, for all I know, that is entirely how every match goes. I literally don't know.
Was a forefather of mixed martial arts and would later in life even negotiate the release of Japanese hostages from Saddam Hussein. Hero
Seriously?
touches it. Inoki was an
Damn.
icon, beloved by the nation of Japan, and at this point was enjoying a winning streak that had gone on for 4 years.
This number is disputed. See description. Inoki versus Vader. Vader? As in Darth? Bray Wyatt. Okay, so it's basically cross promotion matches. Oh, so it's probably not an entirely serious match, so they're not sure how to count that.
But tonight he faces something different.
Well, less serious
gigantic,
match.
Completely unknown foreigner, Big Van Vader. And in the moments that followed, the audience at Sumo Hall
Van Vader?
witnessed
Okay, guess not Darth.
horrifying as their icon is torn apart. Vader pummeling the national hero into unconsciousness.
And that's why he's talking about this guy, because hurting the hero is a good way to get people to hate you. Oh, it's like literally the equivalent of what I said earlier about kids, or as most people know it, going full Skywalker. Technically, Luke almost did it too, so it's just genetic at this point.
Shattering his 4-year win streak, and all in just 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Fans in
I thought they egged these up a lot longer.
They reportedly set their cushions on fire and hurled them into the center of the ring.
Okay, I'm going to say it's a bit of an overreaction here. You should never actually go full soccer match. Also, I'm American. I know it's football in Europe, but also I'm American. I'm being an asshole on purpose.
Erupting in a riot so severe that New Japan would be banned from Sumo Hall for years. But
yeah,
likely mattered because tonight
they made a villain,
was create
and people will go to see him beat
Vader, a true villain who for years would be hated by the people of Japan.
They even styled his hair to look like horns.
Of tens of thousands of people, and then make those people hate you as much as possible. That is the business of a heel wrestler. Something I've always been so fascinated by. And so, in the third of a series of videos I may as well call, "No, Dad, wrestling is for grown-ups. Why won't you look at me?" I want to talk about the strange art of wrestling. How they make us hate them, and how they channel that hatred into storytelling. And to see how powerful an impact heels can have on audiences, we need look no further than one of the first and best. It's the early 1950s, and you are a regular working...
There were... What? Wrestling was around in the 50s? I kind of figured 70s and 80s. I didn't realize it went back this far.
Class American Joe, you and your fellow countrymen putting in long hours of back.
This is back when Kaiser Frog was fully enforced, though.
Pull the US out of the shadow of World War II. But on the weekends, you and your buddies decide to blow off some steam by taking in a wrestling show. And that's where you see him. his hair coiffed into
What?
delicate golden curls, his luxurious robe adorned with ruffles and roses. There's an arrogance to his stride as he stares down disdainfully at you and your
He's just
working
throwing
class
laurels.
brethren. And when he reaches the ring, he refuses to enter until a mink rug is laid down before him and the canvas sprayed with perfume. This was Gorgeous George, a world-class heel. Did he perhaps lean into...
This is 1950s, but he is doing the level of over-the-top gaggery, and I mean that in the sense that it's also a gag that he's pulling, and I want to gag if I had been there to smell that. I can't stand perfume. That I would expect out of the 90s with some of the crazy shit they pulled, like The Undertaker, which worked, and everything else which didn't, and I only know about because of Super Eyepatch Wolf talking about it. Wow. You know, if someone brought this back right now, I could see that being a very hated thing, because arrogant asshole never really stops getting hated.
To some stereotypes that would later be found to be harmful? Yes, but
Which stereotypes? I thought he was just being British.
was he a master at making the working class America of the 50s despise him? Absolutely.
Oh, because he had someone with the...
He would hide behind his female valet and he would refuse to acknowledge his own losses. The audience was so outraged.
Yeah, I guess arrogant assholes who don't know when they lose is kind of a default there. Seriously, was he not trying to be British? Or maybe it was French. I could be mistaken.
After his first title win that he was swarmed and punched in the head.
Oh, jeez.
But if anything, that was only proof at how good a heel George was.
And then people probably want to
Millions
play
would
against
tune
him
in
because they
watch
get to be
a
the
Gorgeous
hero.
George match, to the point that he was instrumental in popularizing early televised wrestling. His
Oh, this is
impact could be
pre-televised
condensed
and during
into
the
a
art.
single piece of
Oh.
advice he gave to a 19-year-old Muhammad Ali.
The fuck?
One that would echo not only throughout Ali's career, but through the entire future of wrestling. A lot of people will pay to see someone shut your mouth.
You know, I was going to disagree. Then I remembered Jake Paul, or was it Logan Paul? I can't remember the difference. Got into mixed martial arts. And nobody actually believes or cares if he's good. I've heard he's actually half decent now. But they all will watch because they want to see him get his face punched in. Him versus KSI, I figured out people would root for KSI because they wanted to see one of the Pauls get punched in the face. Yeah, this is good advice. This is very good advice. I don't even have a joke to make here. It's just accurate.
This right here is the essence of heel wrestling. You don't have to be nice or likable or
In fact, the
anything.
less you are, the better.
As long as the audience is booing, it doesn't matter how you got there. Become a terrifying clown.
Okay, maybe I misspoke saying that it's better if they hate you. There are lines you should not cross. This is one of them. Just no, you don't go full Pennywise.
Threaten to make people pay their taxes. Tell people pollution is bad, or whatever Kurt Angle is going for here.
I would like to talk to you tonight about something that gives your Olympic hero great joy. The joy of celibacy.
Does that imply the other guy just had a gay orgy in the background then? Because that kind of feels like what the alternate is to the heel. It's like, ha, you wanted to be celibate. We're going to get it on like donkeys. No, I should have said rabbits. Whatever. I mixed up my own metaphor.
Oh yeah.
There is an incredible amount of creative freedom that comes with making people hate you, and that freedom has led to some of the most exciting characters in wrestling. The
Stone Cold
Rock,
was a heel?
Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Becky.
The Rock was a heel? That's actually surprising. I always figured he was kind of like The Undertaker, where he's technically just there. Although I think that's heavily influenced because of all the movies where I've seen him in, because I've never actually watched this part.
Lynch. It was becoming villains and freeing themselves from audience expectation that gave them the freedom to create characters that would go on to define their eras.
Oh.
But too much freedom can also be a bad thing. And so before we understand what's good, we need to know what's bad. And to do that, what say we take a little trip through what I like to call the Hall of Terrible Wrestling Heels.
I'm gonna love this because it's gonna be horrible, aren't I? Oh, yeah.
Santa Claus was Santa's evil twin brother who hailed from the South Pole. Mantar was a kind of furry, I think. Oz was Oz from The Wizard of Oz. TL Hopper was an angry plumber. The Goon was an angry hockey player. Knuckleball Schwartz was an angry...
Admittedly, the hockey player makes perfect sense. If anything, if they're not playing to the trope of actively trying to commit murder, then they're not doing it justice. Also, I have family from Boston, and they are very serious about hockey. It is actually terrifying. You just say yes, sir, no, sir. Why are you referring to your 5-year-old niece as a sir? I don't know. They scared me. Do not get in their way, man.
Angry baseball. Eric Rowan carried around a spooky mystery cage for 3 months, and ooh, what's inside? It was a spider. It was a fucking plastic spider, and I'm still angry about it. Friar Ferguson was a very large monk who would do things like this. For some reason, a depiction of a sexually promiscuous clergyman struck a nerve with the Catholic Church, and the gimmick was axed after just one match.
I'm assuming that was before the 2000s, because if they did it afterwards, people would realize it's way too accurate to history. That would be very, very disturbing.
That same wrestler rebranded a few months later as Bastion Booger, a large man with poor hygiene who enjoyed eating. However, unlike Friar Ferguson, Bastion Booger would go on to be wildly successful and beloved by fans, enjoying years of popularity before finally fighting Shawn Michaels to a 60-minute draw at WrestleMania 12. Some of that did not happen. Seven was a spooky man who could fly and would...
I'm sorry, just the plate of food in front of him. I'm actually a little nauseous looking at that. It's like those guys on YouTube who have the videos of them just eating a human-sized amount of food in one sitting. It's a Korean word. I don't know it, and honestly, I'm trying actively to forget it. So if I remember it, I'm disappointing myself. Ugh. It's gluttony. That's why they're making them the heel. It's just showing something obviously not socially acceptable or disliked. Ugh. Okay, I think I got my stomach under control there. If not, well, you'll see a cut and I'll need to have a new keyboard.
Steal your children? I think that's what was going on here. And if you can't get on board with that, neither could Dustin Rhodes.
You can take this silly-looking thing, Seven, and shove it up your ass.
Beaver Cleavage was a parody of the 1957 sitcom Leave It to Beaver, in which a wrestler played a mentally disabled, incestuous version of the little boy. Actually, you know what? No, we're done.
This had to be in the 90s at the latest, because anything later would not even get that reference. I only know Leave It to Beaver because of people making jokes I heard in the 90s. And admittedly, they didn't make sense then. I don't think it's funny. I don't really get the appeal of the show, but that's just me.
I'm done. We're not talking about this anymore. That's it. Go home, everybody.
Yeah, wrestling is serious.
I love it. But if these are all bad heels, what separates good heels from everything we've just talked about?
Will he actually wrestle with that on?
I want to take a look at a wrestler who has the ability to turn an entire arena against him with just a few words.
Video games! Video games! Yeah,
What?
I love video games, and then I lost my virginity.
My favorite thing about AEW's Maxwell Jacob Friedman isn't any of his solid in-ring work or even his excellent heel promos, but how he messes with our perception of him. On TV, he plays a nightmare combination of every suburban asshole rich kid and every douchebag frat boy you've ever.
I made references to the Pauls earlier, right? Because we know his character type. They exist outside of wrestling as well.
Never met. but it's off TV that he's at his most interesting. He's infamous
Really?
for staying in character at
Oh, so he
all
actually
times,
commits to it
the point that
still.
He will actually ignore fans at public events and even outright insult them.
Hey Josh, it's MJF. Heard you're a big fan. Guess what? I don't give a shit. Go fuck yourself.
There was one incident last year where he gave the middle finger to a little boy at a fan meet and greet, and when the boy's father took to Twitter upset, he simply replied, and I quote, "Fuck them kids." Besides it being objectively hilarious, I think what MJF is doing here is really fascinating.
He's committing to the Kaiserfrop, even though everyone knows it's an act. Because he's committing to it, he's getting around that because people don't stop to think, yeah, he's acting. But he's doing it off camera, off time, even though he's literally working right now. Because he's not actively in the ring, people don't think that. So they think it's real. It's kind of funny that even though you know that's not real now, and admittedly I only say that now because I knew so many people growing up who turned me off wrestling because they were absolutely dedicated to the idea that it was real and that anyone who said otherwise needed to be purged. Yeah, I knew a lot of weird kids. She scared me.
Unlike a stage play where the boundaries of what's real and what aren't are very clearly defined, wrestling is a lot blurrier, and particularly with heels. Unlike villains,
especially because all the times it did actually go into reality based on what Super Eyepatch Wolf said.
In other words, they exist in our reality despite being fictional personas, and so
also, just want to throw out there, if you've ever worked a retail job, you can look at what he's doing right now as the ultimate flex. Because let's be honest, how many times have you ever been asked, hey, does this fit in a bread basket? Because I want to pour it in. And they're talking about pants. And you don't work at a clothing store and you have no idea why they're doing this. And you're just sitting here going, oh God, why? Why are you so dumb? And you can't just say, please, do the world a favor. Hold your breath for like an hour. See what happens. You can't say that. This guy can get away with it. It's like that one restaurant, I think in either New York or Boston, where they're intentionally rude to you. That's just stress relief, man.
So there's a very soft boundary between artificial hatred and real. But
guy's getting off on that.
That MJF is a master at distorting. In 2018, the documentarian Kenny Johnson released a 30-minute film on MJF. Johnson's
Only
known for
20,000?
making these really heartfelt documentaries on the lives of rising indie wrestling stars. Often giving these really poignant looks at the people behind the personas.
Is this before they start their
video
acts?
on MJF starts, but after a little while, things start to get strange.
How much was
Despite
the
it
act?
being a documentary, MJF insists on doing the same takes over and over and over. His home is filled with stock photos. He has these bizarre shifts in mood, and we hear his parents, but we never see them. And the more time Johnson spends
That's actually
with
kind of
MJF,
hilarious.
the more he starts to realize that everything
This is bullshit.
about him, from the house he lives in to the people...
Dear God! That is... Okay, admittedly, it has a very nice ceiling. And hardwood floor is pretty good. Oh, I hate those railings, but that is so much money! Oh, it's in New York? Oh. Never mind. Point retracted.
The people that live there...
Aren't real?
It's all a bizarre fabrication. And
He's
when
playing
Johnson
to it already.
starts to peel back that illusion,
He probably even
he catches
just
a glimpse of something
borrowed
much
the
more
house?
unstable and dangerous. No part of me believes that this isn't a work, that it wasn't a collaboration between Johnson and MJF.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also this
You don't put up that kind of stuff otherwise.
fascinating piece of media where a
Just to give an idea what he means. Not only that is it obviously staged, the house is very much looking like a staged house because of all the things put out. No one actually has a house that clean. Who lives in it? If you ever go into a house and they look like this, glass fixtures, nice tasteful art, TV that's off, everything in place on a coffee table, nothing broken, no dirt, no dust, randomly waking up and having a pinned up suit on, and then insisting to do multiple takes. Honestly, the last one's probably the most common. Leaving them in, not so much. The house itself is a giveaway. It's not actually real. But on a sheer technical level, The fact that you would see the multiple takes is the part that, is kind of fake, because it's trying to show the images. Oh, yeah, I'm just crafting my image to get the exact right amount of crazy. It's also why I have all the things around that are completely real and not stock. It's because it's selling the image. That said, the fact that they did multiple takes is probably the most normal thing, and it's actually, because it's portraying him as being incredibly fake, just weirdly enough, the most real thing you could possibly see, because there are so many times you have multiple takes on an intro, especially. I'm not empathizing with that, because I sometimes forget how to say a single word for 10, 20, 30 minutes and give up and just do something else and maybe miss a day of recording because I can't say the word villain. I haven't tried to record this video for the last week and just couldn't say the fucking word villain. I'm not projecting here. Moving on.
Deeply unstable fictional persona is trying to convince us that they are just a normal person. And it gives you just enough room to believe that maybe something is really very wrong with Maxwell Jacob Friedman.
I mean, it's not mutually exclusive. That isn't true.
Good heels from bad, because in order for us to hate them, we first have to believe them. Take a character like Bray Wyatt. How easily could he have landed in our Hall of Terrible Wrestling Heels? A maniacal children's TV host that transforms into a scary monster. It's ridiculous.
Admittedly, that sounds a little too on point. If anything, that has become the norm more than anything else. I'm just throwing it out there. Steve from Blue's Clues went on to do death metal. Yeah. Apparently he was good at it. I didn't get into it myself, but apparently from the people who like that kind of stuff, it wasn't bad.
Ridiculous, but never as ridiculous as it should be, because from the moment Wyatt introduced his Fiend persona, everything about him, from the way he walked, to the way he talked, to how he moved in the ring, it all changed and became so eerie.
That is weird.
That it lets you buy into this character in a way that feels real, even if it obviously isn't. But
I mean, if you actually stab someone in the neck, yeah.
Real? What happens when a heel crosses that boundary between fiction and reality and starts using real life hatred?
Oh?
The Montreal Screwjob took place between Bret the Hitman Hart and the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Two supremely talented wrestlers.
I think I've heard about this one.
Of the WWF. The only problem being that they fucking hated each other in real life.
Oh.
Michaels had previously refused to drop the championship to Hart, and now Hart was refusing to do the same for Michaels.
Because it's supposed to be scripted, but like he's mentioned in other videos, even though it's all fake, it's the best parts are when it drops the fake because someone is getting in there with real shit. In the case of The Undertaker, the real shit being just really really dedicated to their persona and doing what needs to be done to build other people up to keep it going.
And especially in front of his hometown Montreal crowd. The problem, though, was that Hart was about to leave WWF for its biggest rival, and management could not let him leave the champion.
And that's why it's a screw job, because he's getting fucked over.
A scheme was put in place. At this point in the match, Michaels has Hart locked in Hart's own finishing move, the sharpshooter, and the agreed upon finish between Michaels, Hart, and management was that Hart would reverse this into his own sharpshooter, submitting Michaels and giving up the belt the next night.
But
instead, the bell was rang at this precise moment, making it look like Hart had tapped out. Hart was beyond furious. He had been lied to and lost the title in the most humiliating way possible to a man he hated, and the Montreal crowd turned poisonous on Michaels. If you're a fan of wrestling, I'm sorry you had to hear this for the 12th time, but if you're not, I need to drive home that this was all real and not part of WWF's fictional storyline.
Or more specifically, this is one of those cases where the fictional storyline matched with the real storyline. Because the guy was very invested in his completely real, unironic win that is in no way, shape, or form scripted. Yeah, it sounds weird, but there's also documented history of people liking their characters in a TV show to get certain awards to be acknowledged in the fictional universe as being great, and they get upset whenever they're slighted in character. That is actually a thing there is significant documentation for over the last century. Nope, sorry. I'm only thinking TV and movies. It's also happened in plays. So centuries plural, that when an actor finds out, well, I don't like this twist for my character because it makes them look like they don't actually have a way to win. I'm just sitting here going like, it's acting. Acting. The fuck are you talking about? Also, I have no idea what that accent was. It just came out and I'm assuming it's offensive, but I don't know to who. At this point, though, if you're surprised by me not being able to do an accent, that's weird. No, I'm not. But more importantly, just this level of crossover between I want my fictional belt that means nothing because it's all scripted to mean everything to me. And then it does. And then they're also aware that it means everything to the fans, so it means everything to them. It's just that weird crossover between them where the fiction is more important than the reality, and then it's reflected on that. I find that fascinating because it's obviously bullshit, but it's been obviously established bullshit for centuries with any form of acting. So it's actually incredibly traditional in the dumbest possible way.
And so, years later, when Michaels returned to that same arena, the Montreal crowd still held a hatred for him that was so pure. And Michaels leverages it to do some utterly insane heel work.
Yeah.
Mocking the crowd, telling them how they would never see Bret Hart in a WWE ring again.
Except if he...
And they wait, and they wait. What if that character wasn't fictional? What if that character was New Jack?
Who?
To understand New Jack...
Smoky Mountain Wrestling in 1994? Dude, this guy's been wrestling only a few years longer than I've been alive.
You need to know three things. One...
Okay, can I just point out something here? He kind of looks like Diet Mike Tyson. Am I the only one who sees that? It's like it's the eyes. It's like right around the eyes.
One,
but then like the rest of the face is just less.
White people. Two, he performed in front of the predominantly white, predominantly redneck audiences of Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Is that Georgia?
And three, he delivered this promo following the horrific murder of O.J. Simpson's wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her romantic partner, Ron Goldman.
I'd like to send a special shout out to my homeboy, O.J. Simpson. Keep up the good work, baby. 2 less we got to worry about.
Goddamn!
Keep up the good work.
New Jack...
Oh wait, he's talking about when the reality and the fiction overlap. This guy actually went full-on murder, didn't he? He probably got arrested.
Leveraged racial tension in a way that is so uncomfortable to watch.
That you'd assume he's running for Congress.
But was so effective. The Knoxville, Tennessee audiences hated New Jack.
Oh, Tennessee,
but
really?
He thrived on that hatred. He loved drawing out the most extreme reactions possible, and it began to
This is America, though. They will probably try and shoot him.
Which, over the course of his career, would grow more violent and unhinged, to the point that the staged violence stopped being staged at all. He viciously beat a 17-year-old boy so badly that the boy never wrestled again.
Damn.
He'd legitimately tried to kill a wrestler he had a dispute with, and at one point, when an opponent upset him, he took out a knife and began to stab him over and over and over.
The fuck? Was this just Smoky Mountain Wrestling alone? Or just, why does he have a knife? Who lets them freaking go on the stage with a knife? I can assume a prop knife that just retracts whenever it hits, because that's a thing they do in movies and plays all the time. Well, not plays. Or actually plays, yes. Movies, no. Except for the low budget ones, which still do that. And sometimes they just fix that editing. But just, why? And okay, so he could show this and he's choosing not to. So they have this recorded.
They
probably thought it was an
violent
act.
Person masquerading as a wrestler, and people could feel that. People were afraid of New Jack. And while, honestly...
He did kind of stab a man in public, on camera. I think that's warranted. The fact that no one got shot yet is amazing. I say knowing full well that this is America. Someone's going to get shot.
I find a lot of what he did deeply deplorable. New Jack does show that there are heels able to operate on a level beyond hate, fear. And to show you how powerful fear can be in heel work, we need to talk about one of the only other people able to do this.
I mean, technically, The Undertaker did. Granted, that fear became adoration and awe for him, but that was his entire initial thing. Also, it looks like we're going to the Japanese side.
We need to talk about the King.
Who? Elvis?
It's difficult to grasp what Minoru Suzuki is when you first see him, but this man scares the shit out of me.
Why?
Watching a Minoru Suzuki match is like watching a spider pick the limbs.
Okay, what the fuck?
He brutalizes his opponents, stalking them, mocking them, dissecting them with a glee that feels
Is he
so
wrestling under the ring?
delicious and pure, to the point it comes across as disturbingly real. Watch this forearm strike on Tomohiro Ishii and tell me you don't feel like you're watching one man inflicting violence on another. Watching your favorite wrestler face Minoru Suzuki is less about hoping they win and more hoping they survive. And that's all intentional. Suzuki's storyline is that he was forced out of New Japan in 2015, only to return 2 years later, driven by a single-minded ambition. Take the icons of New Japan Pro Wrestling and break them. Destroy the pillars that hold up the company and rebuild it in his own image.
As opposed to the other way, a recent Japanese company has destroyed itself by just fucking up their PR, because Niji Sanji has no idea what the fuck they're doing, and they hire intentional high school kids because they can't bother to do anything in English. Also, everything I just said is backed up by their actual press releases and hiring practices that you can find on LinkedIn and other websites that bother to translate this, because that's actually documented. This sounds actually very accurate now then.
This storyline reached a horrifying climax last year.
What year was this? This was 4 years ago. So that was in 2019, the before times.
Suzuki locked his gaze on Jushin Thunder Liger.
That is a thing.
If Suzuki is the embodiment of evil in New Japan, Liger is the good. An old school legend who's been with the company since the early 80s.
Dude!
4,000 matches.
How is he still not dead? That's just, like, I'm not even... 2020 from the 80s. 40 years! So the guy started as a 10-year-old and he's in his 50s now, where that's a 60-year-old wrestler. And that's if he started at 20. If he wasn't a kid when he started... I don't care if it's is fake, if it's real. The sheer ability to do your job under pressure with that much physical intensity is impressive as hell. There's a reason you don't see many sports players who can do anything past the old age of 30. It's why Gretzky going until his 40s was incredible. Also, he's still alive and he teaches hockey, I think, in a high school. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's still true, but it was true for a long time after he retired.
And respected than Liger. However, late last year, he announced that after 35 years of wrestling, he'd be retired.
Only 35.
Something about this incensed Suzuki, who set about physically erasing Liger, assaulting him, torturing him, dragging out the very
taking
worst
off the mask.
The old hero of New Japan in a feud that genuinely felt like two men trying to kill each other. The story culminated in a match.
Wait, was that a freaking knife? Going back a second here. Yeah, that looks like a knife. And, okay, yeah. Apparently, this is the second wrestler to bring a knife into the actual stage.
Kill each other. The story culminated in a match at King of Pro Wrestling, where the two would face each other one final time. Liger fights valiantly, but he cannot stand against the violent madness of the King, and he falls. But it's what followed that would be remembered as possibly the most shocking moment of Suzuki's career. He approaches Liger, steel chair in hand, and...
He got rid of the chair?
And in that instant, the violent persona and all the awful things he's done, it all falls away. And
because he's
all
bowing
that's
to him.
left is a man in his 50s saying goodbye to someone he deeply respects. In that moment, the fictional storyline and reality of the situation become impossible to pull apart. And it's beautiful.
Was that his last match as well? Because that feels like the conclusion to a storyline there, like actually dropping the persona so intentionally. And that had to be intentional considering he wound up with the chair to hit the downed opponent and then made a very big public showing of dropping it down. Kind of feels like when all of those wrestlers, I can't remember the name because I'm still not the biggest wrestlehead, but when Super Eyepatch Wolf pointed out in the first video how they came out and just said goodbye to their friends before they left and screwed over, I think, Triple H because of that.
You can feel the emotion everywhere here, in the voice of the commentators, in the tears of the audience, and on the face of Suzuki. This is the mark of the best heels in wrestling, the ones who are able to take something real and blend it into their character to the point that no matter how villainous they are,
Pulling the Undertaker, essentially. Being the monster, but being liked.
And before we go into the final section of this video, there is one more wrestler I want to talk about.
Oh?
And one who embodies this maybe better than anyone else.
Who?
Kagetsu is sheer chaos.
What?
Despite the concepts of face and heel being a little softer
That is a lot of
Japan
kicking.
than they are here, Kagetsu is nothing but a straight up villain.
I'm assuming this is Japanese because I don't think America get away with that much kicking. Unless they do. Actually, I don't know nearly enough to say that for sure.
Whose vicious, brutal in-ring style let her carve a knife
Damn!
right through the heart of World Wonder Ring stardom, a Joshi wrestling promotion,
Joshi?
meaning women's wrestling.
Oh.
Which some of you might be surprised to know is some of the most brutal and hard-hitting wrestling on the planet. And
I actually recognize the music in the background. Oh my god. I think my wife likes it.
Kagetsu is the chaotic heel embodiment of that, as she dismantles her opponents with razor-sharp kicks, batters them with weapons, and spits mist in their faces. Nothing is off-limits to Kagetsu.
Damn.
At one point, she even made a running joke out of hanging her rival Mayu Iwatani from balconies, and then kicking her downstairs.
Plural. Multiple balconies. How do you agree to this?
The moment Kagetsu became a true monster, however, came in 2017
When she dyed her hair
took
black?
control of the heel faction Oedo Tai, and next to the prim.
So is this a thing in Japan where they just have factions? I mean, I know in America they kind of have that when the Undertaker was shown to brainwash wrestlers. Yeah, it sounds stupid when you say it out loud. But he mentioned before they had like the Bullet Club, which were all heels until they weren't. So I guess it wasn't just a one-time thing. They just have wrestling groups. Huh.
And proper pop idols of stardom, Oedo Tai were the freaks, the outcasts. Like Kagetsu herself, Oedo Tai weren't necessarily evil, they just didn't give a fuck what anyone else thought and were going to have fun at other people's expense. They'd humiliate their opponents, even performing elaborate dance routines, because who is going to stop them? At one point, they even...
I'm actually more surprised they got away with this one because copyright in Japan is kinda... yeah. It ain't Disney money, but it ain't lacking either.
Dressed up as the Straw Hat Pirates, which honestly has no relevance to any of this whatsoever.
Also, the villains do
I
dance
think
numbers.
it's cool. And over the next 2 years, Kagetsu, surrounded by Oedo Tai, would run riot over the company and rise to the very peak of stardom. Kagetsu ripping the world title away from Tony Storm, beginning a championship reign that would last 300 days.
Almost a full year.
Kagetsu would become the brutal final boss of stardom, an impenetrable impenetrable wall that any rising star would have to break through, but so few did. Kagetsu felt indestructible, able to absorb massive amounts of damage, to the point that you could even see the look of horror on her opponents' faces, desperate to find a way to finally surpass the demon queen.
Yeah, that face right here. That what the fuck, they're not down? And it's good acting on her end, because there's no way you make that face if it's an actual fight. You just hit them again. So this is still in the acting side. But it very much feels like someone took a page out of The Undertaker, just not reacting, not selling the hit. Ooh, I just hit my mic. Oops. But if they're not selling enough, and admittedly, she's selling more than The Undertaker just because I think the physical mass is being hit actually harder than the other one. So without selling and just not going down, and then you have other people playing off and selling the lack of selling. Reverse selling? There's probably a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to make it because that gets way too into life insurance.
Queen of Stardom. And the result was matches so intense and emotional that you really felt like you were watching two performers struggle to break their own limits.
Also, I want to point out just how cool this moment is right here.
You were watching.
Just like when you see someone make that hit. She's hit here, but her legs are already going up at the time. See, here it is. She's running in, but you can see she's already stopping because her legs are ahead of her as it's hitting, so she's already playing into it. But it looks like she's flipping there, but she's actually flipping herself in to really sell the hit here, which is weird because apparently her entire thing, according to Super Eyepatch Wolf, was not selling because she seems indestructible, because she just take the pain. Because she's making it look like it's hitting hard, but then just walking it off immediately. Okay.
Watching
a variation
two performers struggle to break their own limits, with Kagetsu's message at the end of these matches,
and her hair getting crazier throughout it.
Same. If you hate me, then get better than me. The reason Kagetsu felt so real is because she was.
Oh?
From the early days of her career, she set about with the goal of ushering in a new era of Joshi wrestling, an industry still being dominated by the same stars it had been since the early 90s. And so Kagetsu became a villain. All the heelish shit she'd do, all the brutality, all the cheating, it was all in the name of pushing her opponents as far as they could go, forcing them to become stronger so that they might one day surpass her.
Oh my god, this is so anime. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. This is literally a Japanese company with a Japanese star and a Japanese audience doing the full-on, I want you to be better. Beat me. I am now your villain, so you must surpass me. Also, I think that was more of a southern accent there, so it doesn't really fit, but whatever.
And become the future of Joshi wrestling. In reality, Kagetsu is known for taking younger performers under her wing,
yeah,
raising
Undertaker,
them up and helping them grow. She even became the head coach of the promotion in 2018, spending her time shaping the next generation of young female wrestlers. And so, whether you view Kagetsu's matches as real or staged,
so she doesn't commit to it outside.
Watching a woman fight for the future of Joshi wrestling, and I think that's really fucking beautiful. Tragically, on Christmas Eve of last year, after an absolute war with her old rival Mayu Iwatani, Kagetsu announced that after 11 years of wrestling, she'd be retiring. And it's sad watching her retirement match as she takes on the entire roster of Stardom in a gauntlet match, slowly being worn down until finally the invincible final boss of Stardom falls. I say tragic because what kills me about Kagetsu is that she's virtually unknown outside hardcore circles and particularly outside Japan, fighting for a much smaller promotion than any other wrestler we've talked about, and because of that...
Oh yeah, because he's mentioned there's actually a lot of crossover between American and Japanese wrestling. Also, I'm not sure if they have wrestling in other countries other than America and Japan. Do they? I actually don't know. But I was always thinking, okay, it's probably a Japanese only thing because language barrier. But then there's things like Wipeout and all of the other wrestlers he's mentioned that some of them have come over here. Admittedly, the only Japanese wrestler I knew before anything to do with Super Eyepatch Wolf was literally Ladybeard. So I'm not sure I'm a good example, so I probably live down to the stereotype. I have no idea what's going on.
I don't think she's ever reached the level of notoriety she deserves, meaning there's a chance that this video could be the most Western exposure she ever gets.
Damn.
So please, if you take nothing else away from today, remember Kagetsu. She deserves to go down as one of the all-time great villains in wrestling. I hope by now it's becoming obvious that heels can make us feel all kinds of things.
Are those brass
Anger,
knuckles on
hatred, fear, hell,
knife?
even love.
What was that?
But there's one final aspect of wrestling villains I want to talk about, and that is the heel turn. This is when a face, a good guy wrestler, falls to the
when
dark
they
side
decide to go
and
bad,
becomes
yeah.
a heel. And if used right, can be such a powerful storytelling tool that it's resulted in some of the most infamous and shocking moments in wrestling. And the last thing I want to talk about today is a story centered around one of these moments.
I don't know nearly enough to say who would do
January
this.
4th of this year, Tetsuya Naito is the fourth entrant in the double gold
Oh, is this going to be the guy who made his name as the good guy who came back as the dismissive one?
dash.
Maybe?
A hyper elite four-man tournament between the very best of New Japan, designed to crown a single undisputed champion.
That is a lot of
But
belt.
for Naito, it's been a long road that's brought him here. His early career was disastrous, rejected by fans, disregarded by his promotion.
Oh, I think he talked
It was
about this
only
before in a
after
previous
trip
video.
to Mexico that Naito returned as a spiteful heel, and he did so with the help of his best friend and running mate, a man known only as Evil, the King of Darkness.
What?
The silent
I'm sorry, he goes by what? Please tell me that's also in English in the Japanese market, because it's so over the top. It's perfectly on par with American wrestling. Or I guess more Mexican wrestling in this side. Of course. I was asking for other countries other than America and Japan had wrestling, and I literally forgot Lucha Libre, Mexican wrestling.
stoic brawler who for a
Or I think that's the
time
traditional one, is it?
was one of Naito's only friends on the planet.
Damn.
Together, the two had formed the heel faction Los Ingobernables de Japón, the Ungovernable, a home for the most rebellious and unruly wrestlers of the Japanese
The
wrestling
Ungovernable of
industry.
Japan.
Unlike other factions, LIJ were small and tightly knit, each new member a big deal, adding something unique and different, like the ice-cold Sonata, whose lethargic, devastating style would lead to him forming a tag team with Evil and capturing multiple tag titles.
Dude.
Or Hiromu, the young, explosive, wild man of the group who would run riot over New Japan's junior.
Can I just go back a second? Because, you know, there's a lot of crazy things people wear, but that is... You're one stiff breeze from being knocked over, dude. If someone pointed a fan in the wrong direction, you're going to fall. Dear God, just put a parachute on you, why don't you? Admittedly, it's probably very soft, but... Wait, did they have to glue that to... Please tell me there's a robe they're glued to and he didn't have to peel them off his skin. Oh, God, it's like pulling a Band-Aid off hair. Oh, I don't want to think about
over
this.
New Japan's junior heavyweight division. People
Junior heavyweight?
loved LIJ. Despite the fact that they were basically heels, the crowd never reacted to them that way. And I think that was because if you felt weird or different or like an outsider, LIJ captured that feeling and made it their strength.
It very much seems that heels in Japan versus heels in America have a very different persona, where the ones in America are hated, the ones in Japan are just outsiders, which I guess it is more of a cultural thing. Huh. Because they're the heel, but they're heels because they don't conform. And I guess in a society that's more collectivist, that would make more sense.
Signified by their silent Los Ingobernables fist salute. And for years, that's how they were. The Star Naito backed by his LIJ brethren. But as the years went on, Naito's dream of being the best started to fade. Despite his popularity, his title runs were short and infrequent, and worse, he was constantly in the shadow of his bitter rival, Kazuchika Okada, the Rainmaker and longest reigning IWGP Heavyweight Champion of all time. And so, when the two met in the finals of the Double Gold Dash tournament, it felt like a last stand for Naito. If he couldn't do it here, then this could be the end. But after a hellacious battle that pushed both men to the brink, Naito did it, becoming the first double champion of all time, and finally standing at the very peak of New Japan Pro Wrestling, only to be brought crashing down by Kenta, the current leader of the Bullet Club. The Bullet Club were and are the biggest heel faction.
Oh, I've heard about them, yeah, because they were the other leader. And didn't he, like, join this group or something? Yeah, he did. I think he did mention this in the very first wrestling video.
In New Japan. Vicious, cold, and massive. Where LIJ had the fist salute, Bullet Club had their too sweet salute. Kenta humiliating.
Why are they making ducks and touching the tip? I feel like I just watched something that should have been censored. What the fuck was that?
Naito in what should have been the greatest moment of his entire life. But Kenta is not our villain today. Naito would defeat him a month later, where finally his championship reign could truly begin, and then the virus happened and New Japan had to shut down. Poor Naito.
Oh, damn.
Months later, New Japan would reopen with the New Japan Cup, a 32-man tournament, the winner of which would go on to face Naito for his double championship, which is why it was so unsurprising to see Okada make it all the way to the finals. But it was across the ring from the Rainmaker that a more disturbing story was playing out.
What?
Because you see, the other finalist was Evil. See, at this point, Evil had stood behind Naito for 5 years. And as Naito's star rose, Evil just watched from the shadows.
Oh, he's the heel of the heel team.
An especially bad year for Evil, seeing him take several devastating singles losses, and worse, he'd arguably been surpassed by the younger members of LIJ. Hiromu had captured the junior heavyweight title multiple times, and Evil's own tag partner Sanada had been finding massive success as a singles wrestler, even challenging Okada.
This might be a dumb question on my end, but is singles and doubles separate? I thought it was just like a different presentation. Is that an American Japan thing, or is it just me not knowing wrestling? I'm not asking because I'm an idiot. I'm asking because I know I'm an idiot, and I know someone else will probably have the answer in the comments.
For the world title, people were now beginning to talk about Evil as the least important member of LIJ.
So he has to come out of the shadow then.
Failure seeped inside.
But how much of this was him and how much was the character?
New Japan Cup with a choice: fade into nothing, or become something different. Evil attacked the tournament with a violence that shocked fans, breaking his opponents, leaving them injured and unable to compete.
Is it bad that I just see violence that shocks Japan? I'm just going, kind of just looks like America. Oh, yeah, because we're just more violent, so we expect more, so we get more, and it's a more over the top, probably. Maybe that's just my own interpretation. Please tell me I'm wrong.
And so a thick
that is very
tension
spiky.
When in the semi-finals, he met his own tag team partner, Sanada, but it didn't matter. Evil destroyed Sanada as the crowd watched in silent horror as he stepped over the body of his LIJ brother and into the finals, where in the most shocking victory of the tournament, Evil would defeat Okada, meaning he would now face Naito for the championship in just 24 hours.
They're fighting that fuck?
Naito,
why?
Reluctance.
No, seriously, how are they doing that so fast? That is a lot of energy to expel. A single night's rest is... You're going to be fucked up, man. I'm actually more impressed that that guy can do that. Like, unironically, right now, someone just going like, I am going to wrestle. I'm going to put on that show. I am going to go all out. And in, like, literally a night's sleep, I'm going to be back here, and I'm going to beat the shit out of my muscles to see how much I can hurt the next day.
In his eyes, comes to the ring to congratulate Evil and celebrate the first ever all-Ingobernables title match. And offers Evil the LIJ fist salute, just like they'd done so many times before. And Evil would answer with the symbol of the Bullet Club. I've watched LIJ for years. I've seen them live.
Because he had just lost to them prior in a fake out. And now he's doing it as well because he wants to make a name for himself. Oh, okay.
Their merch. This moment was heartbreaking. Evil walking away from the man he'd been through so much with, now a member of the Bullet Club. The next night, the two would meet, but what awaits Naito is a brand new Evil, flanked by the Bullet Club. Everything about the man Naito once knew was gone. Evil's old LIJ entrance music replaced by a song that sounds like the world is ending. And for Naito,
I want to make a Garth Brooks joke, but I think that's a little too on the nose right now.
It is. Heartbroken and betrayed by his friends, Naito cannot focus, and Evil uses that to destroy him with a hatred of someone who'd spent years being forgotten.
Oh, sorry, just one of those little practical effects right there. The chair coming out. So you can tell this is less of the actual hatred and more of the scripted battle, because if you hit someone over the head with this, that does not pop out. Like you could see it does. His head does not move at all. So you could see that there was no actual danger. His shoulders probably got beat there because that probably hurt like hell. But his head, which would probably fuck him up, did not. That's actually really cool that they have fall away pieces like that. So they can make it really sell that they're hitting it down. And there's going to be a bruise there, but the shoulder's a lot easier to fix. Huh.
Spent years being forgotten.
If you actually hit someone with a chair, they don't do that.
Tearing away his double championship and everything Naito had spent his entire life working towards.
He's taking the fall.
In that moment, the King of Darkness ascends to become the god of New Japan. After the match, Hiromu, the youngest member of LIJ, confronts Evil, demanding how he could do something like this.
I know he's trying to sell this right now as making people hate you, but I'm just thinking this is such a cool plot because it seems like even if the personal aspect is he's dissatisfied with becoming the lesser one, it's kind of cool how they're building up and selling and being there to make these statements in the first place, implying that they had to be ready to do this. So it's just kind of cool to see what looks like from the outside, people working together to prop up one of their members who might have started to fall behind. So even though it's betrayal, on the sideline, it looks more like they're helping the guy who started their entire group and they're just propping each other up and helping it. It seems really cool.
And Evil.
But how much of that is actually real? How much is that just misreading, though?
Oh.
Evil just walks away, leaving LIJ and the world of New Japan in flames.
Because the heel stopped being the heel.
What I love about this story is how it took 5 years of history to create this heartbreaking narrative where a person betrays everything they know in order to not be forgotten. And because of that, Evil feels unbeatable, but that's now the storyline of New Japan. And exactly how Vader felt when he destroyed Inoki 30 years ago. But the thing about that story is that when the two rematched a year later, it felt like watching this Japanese hero climb a mountain. Like we were witnessing our hero struggle to overcome something frightening and real and impossible. And when he finally does, when he finally defeats the man who ruined him, there's a real
Oh shit, man. His head is bleeding a lot. Oh, yeah, so all fight aside, that is a very... If it was any higher, that'd be bleeding a lot more, even.
Real euphoria to it, even now.
He should probably get that looked at.
Years later. And that's the thing. Heroes are only as great as the challenges they overcome.
Yep.
But to me, there's something more to heels too. I think the appeal of wrestling, when you really peel it all back, is it's just a story of characters, of people. And the appeal of heels, personally, I spend a lot of time worrying about what people think of me. I think a lot of people do.
Really?
And so for me, when I see these big, impossible villainous characters put everything they have into showing the world what they are, no matter what anyone thinks, I think there's something kind of beautiful about that.
For some of them. because he pointed out the guy who actually stabbed someone in the ring. Yeah, there's a limit. There is a definitive limit on that one. That limit is do not commit crime. That is usually a good one. I should not have to say that, but apparently I do.
So, no matter how much heels try and make us hate them, hell, it's because of that I can't help but love them.
Although I think a lot of that is the Japanese heels that are really the ones who are heels, but also someone you can still root for. That just seems to be my take, that it seems less personal and more like a personal journey as opposed to a personal fuck you. Huh. Because Evil basically was doing the same thing Naito did.
Friends, thank you for joining me today.
And that was the third video in the wrestling series from Super Eyepatch Wolf. There's a fourth one out, and for all I know, there's going to be a fifth one because I don't think Super Eyepatch Wolf is going to stop liking wrestling anytime soon. And I kind of love this. But the entire thing that this video made me really focus on, I thought it would be, here's all the techniques they're using to make people hate you. But it's the usual things I thought it'd be an asshole, and in the case of one specific guy, try to commit murder. Yeah. But a lot of that was obvious. What I really find fascinating, though, is the heel take on one side in Japan versus the heel take in America. On America, it's very much feeling like there's overlap with actual hatred, with personality conflicts, and things that are beyond the ring, but mostly it's managed. It's the character you're playing. Where the Japanese side, especially, and drawing back from his first video where he talks about the Golden Lovers and how they had a storyline over the course of multiple companies between those two people. Not their characters, but their people. The people who were wrestling. And it was over decades with companies, and that was an overarching narrative that they themselves wrote. It almost feels like Japanese wrestling is more engaged with storylines that the characters, that the people portraying the characters want to tell. And then the American side, which is very much the characters that they're told to tell, that sometimes are real. It has that weird blend of just getting more personal freedom to do what you want if you're the bad guy on the Japanese side. And I would love if you did a video contrasting how the different styles of narrative really do change. Which one is more controlling? Which one is more open? Which one is allowed to actually craft the narrative they want as opposed to the narrative they're told to say? And that would be fascinating, man. But when it comes to how a story is crafted, how people are given agency to do that, that is personally to me absolutely fascinating. And it's probably why I've liked these. Because wrestling, I'm fascinated by it, but only because of the passion Super Eyepatch Wolf's putting into this. What really gets me, though, is the narratives they're constructing and how they're holding together and how they're building them and how they're coming and just showing us such a crazy view that is not real, except until it becomes real. And that's fascinating to me. If there's anyone else who does something like that, comparing and contrasting it, I would love to see that video. If anyone knows, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just wait for Super Eyepatch Wolf to do it, because eventually I think he'll make that, because he's kind of already starting to, at least in this video. And for all I know, the unreality of pro wrestling, the next video he did, is that. I haven't looked into it yet, because if I had, I would already make a video on it, because that sounds like fun. I might do the next. Don't know. If there's a better video to check out from Super Eyepatch Wolf, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.